All right, well, here we are again, team, and great to have everyone with us. Looking forward to the conversation today. For all of those who may be budding engineers, we're going to be talking to an engineer, maybe a long time back, Dave, since you worked as an engineer, but
Yep.
budding engineers, but more entrepreneurs looking to scale your business, looking to find ways that you can actually grow without sacrificing your life entirely, right? And I guess
Correct.
Dave Goodall, that's what you're all about. You're a business consultant, you're a coach, and you help entrepreneurs, business owners to do exactly that, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of the new analogy I just came up with is how do you get the hate off your plate?
Ah,
I love one of my principles. It's the what if principle. What if? Because a lot of us, we're always have that what if going on, but we won't take action. And then when we
yeah.
do take action, we feel like we're alone in the trenches. And then we've got this plate of hate. And like, how do you, like, it's heavy, right? And
Yeah.
how do we move on? And when you're in it, you can't see it.
Well, Dave, I'm really looking forward to the conversation as much for myself. So, for selfish reasons, I'd love to know how to grow as well. So, welcome to the ET project. Fantastic that
Hey,
we had the opportunity to talk.
yeah, thanks for reaching out. I'm excited to be here. I'm a geek, again as an engineer, but I love talking business. My grandfather 10 or 11. So I didn't get the whole journey, but I got the seed planted and now I just love to talk business.
Yeah,
People make
fantastic.
money in so many different ways. It's amazing nowadays.
Yeah, incredible. I was going to ask you about that actually. Maybe we'll dig a little bit first into that
Yeah.
background. But there was something interesting I read in your bio somewhere about how you always had that passion for business. But I was curious, you then went down the engineering path. So I just wanted to dig into why that was. Typically, if you go in engineering, it's more of a science field rather than being the entrepreneurial mindset. So I'd love to uncover that a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into it. So, my father was an onboard electrician for the C-130s during Vietnam.
Right.
So when he came back from Vietnam, he had a toolbox in his hand, and we were always tinkering, people cutting phone lines. We were always doing repairs. It was the cable TV generation, so I saw the cable guys always installing. And then through high school, I was doing car stereo installations. I was tearing cars apart. I figured out
Right.
how to build systems. So I was always a tinkerer. But I also, again, that seed was planted with my grandfather on running a business. I loved numbers, I loved math, I loved accounting, and there's just something about creating. And with my grandfather not there, my family was getting broken up. I wanted to be an architect, and my architecture teacher's like, "Dude, you suck at drawing. You've got the physical aptitude. You're great at math. Can I throw you over with the electrical department and just let them have at you for a semester and see what you do?" And I went over there and I aced the program,
Right.
and which transitioned me into a double E. So I got an electrical engineering degree. And again, like you said, I was never really fulfilled in my career. I spent 22 years in IT consulting and product management, and this whole evolution of designing a product, installing a product, fixing the product, evolving the product. So I was kind of, even as an engineer, I wasn't the pocket protector guy. We were like
Yes.
installing it. How does it really work? How is our clients using it?
Yeah.
Oh, you hit a bug. How do we get that fixed? Oh, you want this feature. And then it's this constant integration. So in a way, I was an entrepreneur. I was leading of a product team I did oil and gas, I did healthcare, I did sales, like in Walmart's in production and manufacturing. I work with Apple, for all the iPhone chip productions, and
Mm.
it's I just got obsessed with the idea of business around how a product can solve a problem, which can enable a business to make two, three, 4x the money they're making just on a simple time saver, right?
Right.
And then when I was let go 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, it was just I'd always been obsessed, and I'd been taking courses, and I got my certification in coaching because I wanted my ICF. It was all about credentials. Being an engineer, you had to get this,
Yeah.
and I got my engineering certification. I got this, and what I realized is I was chasing paper acknowledgement that I was smart. And when you jump out and start your own business, those pieces of paper don't mean crap. It's like, how can you apply it? And that's when I started working with these business owners with all the experience that I had on that constant recycle of evolution of making it better, systemizing it,
Right.
getting the crappy stories out of your brain that I suck, I'm not good enough, there's not enough time, I can't do that. That's where I went in and I got focused on the neuroscience side of why we do what we do, and then how do we make it easier. So long answer. I said a lot there.
No, but it helps fill a lot of gaps. So what I didn't mention is you're sitting in North Carolina. You're in
Correct.
Raleigh
Yep.
or somewhere like
Yep,
that.
in the Raleigh area. So that it's basically the tech center on the East Coast. San Jose has a
Yeah.
lot of tech companies, and right here in Raleigh's Research Triangle Park, there's a lot of tech companies and pharmaceutical companies in my backyard here.
Oh, fantastic. What's the climate like at the moment over on the East
Hot
Coast?
and humid. So Fahrenheit, what would that be? That's about 94 to 98 degrees, and then humidity and such about 90% humidity. So it's
Okay,
stepping into a sauna.
right. Have you had the opportunity to do any work outside of the States with the business?
Yep.
Yeah.
So in oil and gas, I was required to go over to Australia and over to Perth. Oil and gas, I was out in California and Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
You see, I've been over to Australia, and then again, oil and gas. I was over in London, UK for BP, Chevron. So most of my European or UK area was all oil and gas based. Australia was more some oil and gas, but more of systemization operations for team development and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
I've
nice.
had the pleasure to travel over the pond to several different places, and it's been a lot of fun.
You also mentioned in your on your website somewhere about the fact that you grew up with dyslexia.
Yes,
I know
yeah.
this is a big problem for many people, and just interested how you leverage that.
Yeah, so for me, I was never a good student. That was, as I was talking about, I really got obsessed with neuroscience because my oldest daughter is also autistic, and my youngest daughter has dyslexia and dysgraphia as well. And I was like, man, this brain is a mysterious thing, and
Yeah.
I just have that curiosity, right? And I was blessed. My junior year in high school, my science teacher just happened to be my swim team coach. I was that ADHD kid that I was jumping BMX bikes. I was on swim team. I played soccer. I was climbing trees. So I swam swim team for probably 6 or 7 years when I was a kid. Got up at 6 a.m., rode my bike to the pool. And my science teacher, I show up and I participate. I'm asking questions. I'm engaging. And first 3 tests, I failed, like completely failed. And my teacher called my house and is like, look, something's going on with Dave. Like, he shows up, he participates, he can answer questions in class, but she's like, I put a piece of paper in front of him and he can't get above a 40%. And they tested my reading level my junior in high school. And I had a reading level of like a first grade, second grade grader at that point. And they rushed to kind of get my reading levels up. But the damage was done. I was 16, 17 years old. And I had an internal self-talk. I'm an idiot. I can't learn this stuff. And that just stuck with me through my 30s. And what I learned in that transition, it's like, well, I had to start gaining evidence and changing the narration of my story. I was like, well, an idiot can't come out of high school with a 1.8 GPA and then go and get an electrical engineering degree and get a 2.8 to a 3.0 and then work in 2 of the top 2 companies in the world in IT, Cisco Systems and NetApp Storage, and be an absolute idiot. Like, it doesn't work that way. So I had to start changing my story. And then when I started dissecting and learning about neuroscience and neuroplasticity, my dyslexia was actually a gift. My gift, like, again, how do I get to my junior year in high school? Not really knowing how to read, but knowing how to master the system and manipulate my way through for success. Right. So what I learned is because of my dyslexia, I have a pattern recognition that a lot of other people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
It may take me a little longer to get to the front door. I tell it, people try to explain things to me. I'm like, slow it down. It takes me a little while to get to the front door, but once I get in the house, man, I'm ready to redecorate. Like, we got it. Right. And so the dyslexia for me, actually, when I look at it now, is a gift. It can be a disturbance, but then I've learned how to navigate conversations with people to slow things down so I can translate to my visual imagery and then I can put it all together. So it's a gift. That's how I've changed my story.
Yeah, which is fantastic, and kudos to you. I'm wondering, during the high school, during the college years, did you find a way to overcome it, that shortcoming with the ability to read, with the ability to see that initial picture? Did you find a secret that helped you get through?
It was just pure pain.
Okay.
I was that stubborn kid with ADD, and I was just going to grind through it.
Right.
We were talking pre-call that underdog story. I stay in
Yeah.
touch with a lot of my clients because when they come to me, they're in that transition. It could go either way, right? And I love to, once we disconnect, call them 2 to 3 years later. I'm like, so how did it go? Where did you go?
Yeah.
And usually amazing things happen. But the point I'm trying to get across from me is I was the underdog. I was like, it's not gonna, a lot of people doubted me, or at least in
Yeah.
my mind, I thought they did. So I had the attitude of like, watch me. I want to prove you wrong. So that was a
Yeah.
lot of my grit. And I learned later on in life that's not a way to be because it doesn't attract growth and creativity. It's kind of like walking around with your double middle fingers up. And although you can succeed, it doesn't get you the grace and the flow and the creativity. So
Right.
to answer your question, no, I never really figured it out until later. A lot of it now is the tools weren't available back then. Like I've got a natural reader. So I'll write I'll write blog posts, I'll write articles, and I'll have to put it into a reader and have it read back to me,
Mm.
just because then I can sit back and listen to it and create the pictures and make sure I'm trying to get across what I'm trying to get across. If there's important articles that I need to read and I know I need to be specific, or if my clients are sending me different specs or white papers, I'll have to throw it into a reader and have it read to me.
Okay.
Because what happens to me is I get hyper focused on the word
Yep.
and then I miss the translation. So there's a disconnect and I got to put it to pictures and it can slow me down. So for me now, I've got tools that can read things aloud to me, which makes it 10 times easier.
Yeah. But, even in listening to that, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with something similar.
Yep.
And just listening to the insights you've shared now, they probably feel a little bit more comfortable in their own skills and in their journeys. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and then like my youngest daughter has had more evidence of dyslexia, but now I'd say that 99% of the school books are in audio format nowadays.
Mm.
So there's different programs that I pay like a membership, like $100 a year, and all of their library books, everything's in an audio format, and then and you can speed it up, slow it down.
Yeah.
So just having that, like even with my daughter, she'd bring home a library book and I'd go in and check it out, and it would read it to her while she was reading it. And that speeds up comprehension too. So the tools weren't there when I was growing up, but luckily they're there today. And any student that's dealing with dyslexia or struggles to comprehend, tools are there. Use them.
Yeah.
Makes it easier.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
When we spoke the first time, you mentioned that you'd worked with a couple of interesting people. We had some commonalities there. Tony Robbins and his associates, etc. How did you get to connect with this area?
Yeah. So again, I went on that personal journey when I was like 30 years old, and I was fat and miserable and hating life and hating corporate America. And I was like, it's got to be easier. So I went on this quest. Actually, what happened is my dad sent me the DVD of The Secret, The Law of Attraction.
All right.
And that just stimulated, I reflected on my childhood. If there's anything I wanted when I was a kid, I had this pie in the sky, this dream that I could create visual and it would happen. Like I wanted to build a quarter pipe when I was a kid, and skateboarding was coming up. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I would just sit there. I realize it now, but then I was meditating.
Right.
I would sit in silence and visualize. It's like, oh, I want to build a skate ramp, or I want a BMX bike, or I want to build a dirt park. And I would sit and visualize or draw and sketch, and things were easy to create and put together. And then you're 33 with a mortgage and 2 kids and a marriage, and life got real. And I realized that I had stopped dreaming, and I saw The Secret and The Law of Attraction. And then it just led me down the path of, I got exposed to Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Greg Braden. Greg Braden worked at Cisco when I was working at Cisco. And these guys that are they're game changers. They want to give you a different perspective of what's real, right? And then I ended up getting my coaching certification, and then I ended up networking with people, and I ended up meeting Chuck Jacoby, who was the center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a Super Bowl ring, and I had heard about NLP, neuro linguistics programming, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. And after getting to know Chucky, he's like, "Hey man, I'm working with Dr. Matt James." I'm like, that name's fine. Sounds familiar. He goes, "Well, Tad James." Tad James is Matt's dad, and Tad was the right-hand man to Tony Robbins, who introduced NLP to Tony. And I'm like, oh, I got to meet this guy. Next thing I know, I'm in San Diego meeting Matt, and then I'm down in Tampa getting my master's in hypnosis and all this other stuff. So it was like, once you get obsessed with tools in your toolbox, you just you don't stop, right?
And have you found them useful in the business consulting?
Oh, I use it all the time.
Right.
It's so funny. I use hypnosis all the time. And hypnosis is really just allowing a space for your client to feel safe and see another perspective, right? And it's funny. I'm like, I'm going to hypnotize you right now. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to say. And here's what I'm going to ask. Then I'm going to make another statement, like you tell me, and then we'll go through it. I'll tell them exactly what I'm going to do. Like, okay, yeah, that's just not going to work on me. And I'll go right through it. And they're like, I'm like, so now what are you going to do? Like, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this is the action I'm going to take. And then we're going to do this. And then we'll come back next week with our marketing plan. I'm like, for whatever reason, they had a mental block that they couldn't see that as possible for them. And language patterns just allows you to trigger their emotional response to break through whatever barrier you're having. And we all have them. Yeah. I mean, I even come to my barriers and I'll go to my friends. I'm like, I'm blocked here. Get it out of me. I can't get to it because I'm attached to it, right? We're emotionally attached to this BS.
Yeah, for sure. So that's an interesting point, though. So when you find yourself stuck like this, you have a group of people around you, like mentors, coaches, advisors.
Yeah, I have regular standing meetings with networks of people that sometimes we'll do a cigar with a whiskey on the front porch. Some of them we do Thursday morning huddles. You know, what's going on in your business? Where are you stuck? And a lot of it too is another network I try to engage in is we're all tribal creatures. Right. We need a tribe. So I try to surround myself with men similar age that are fathers, because being a father and a husband is very important to me. And then also managing, growing my business and growing other people's business is very important to me. So I want to surround myself with people that are going to call me out on my crap, right? When I'm thinking small, I want someone to be like, dude, I thought you were a dad. Right. And just expose me for the negative language that I might be having, because that's where it is. I mean, men, I think we're missing that today, that tribal instinct of men holding, it's iron sharpens iron. If you're not in the trenches with the boys, holding yourself accountable, being vulnerable, we're not growing.
I wouldn't limit it, Dave, to just men. To be honest, I think it's a societal requirement, right? I mean, we need to be connected with other people. And
again, I'm not out for going and drinking a 12-pack of beer, but I mean, we've got a brewery like 100 yards from my front door, like 1 or 2 beers once a week, just to be in that masculine circle of accountability of, you know, what's working, what's not.
Yeah.
And again, I break people's language down into energy, into either a fight or flight or a creative, right? And I've got an assessment for this, but what I try to expose people is like this level 1 is victim. I can't because of my circumstances. I have very low tolerance for level 1 conversation. Like if anyone comes into the group and they're like, oh, woe is me. I'm like, no, put your big boy pants on. I don't care. You're going to have to do some work. Right. And level 2, in order to win, someone's got to lose. And I'm like, yeah, that can get you motivated. Yeah. But that was the attitude I was sharing with you. That's what got me through college. Yep. And then I was miserable through my 30s. You know, once we transition to that creative energy, that level 3 is I'm going to own my world exists, and the crap and the goodness that's around me is because of me and my best thinking. Right. And then as we move up the ladder, level 4 is I don't win unless I help someone else win. Level 5 is I'm not going to delegate something I'm not willing to do myself. We'll roll up our sleeves. Yeah. And then the last 2 are amazing. That level 6 is I'm solution focused. Right. So whatever problems in this world, we're going to solve it, but not just for me. It's going to benefit everybody.
Okay.
And then that level 7 energy is when you can shut the heck up, surrender to God, to universe, and be like, all right, my way's not working. I know you got a greater plan for me. I'm going to try and listen to you for a minute and have you point me in the direction. And what I've learned through that is a lot of people go to God, go to prayer, go to meditation to fix me now.
Yeah.
And it's really what I've learned is the secret is surrendering to my way's not the right way. Can you please guide me where I need to go? Because every downfall we come in contact with is a learning opportunity. A lot of us thinks it's being done to us and this pain, and it's actually being done for us.
For us, yeah.
You know, and again, that's why I say I love the whole energy, because the energy triggers an emotion, the emotion triggers an action, then the action gives you a result. And a lot of people look at the result as like, well, I got a big bag of poop. It's not in the cards for me. It's like, no, you had to get here to know that this doesn't work. If you go back, now you know what not to do. So now, you know, it was just rinse and repeat. and that's kind of like the moral of the story of life. Like life sucks at times. There's always going to be obstacles, but embrace the obstacles, plow through them, and learn.
So that leads on to a nice segue. Actually, it leads on to a question I was going to ask you. If I was to say, well, you've been doing business now for what, 6 years or so.
Yeah.
Have you identified your ideal clients at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, my program works for any small business owner. My goal is to attract those business owners. They're usually in the 30 to 50. I've worked with some young ones, and they've been a hell of a lot easier to work with because they're just like sponges. I have a 23-year-old kid that sold $5 million in websites in the last year and a half. Right. So these young ones, man, they're hungry. They got nothing going on, and they're just like, feed me. But the key is like that 30, 35 to 50, 55. Yeah. Their business is on that 2 million crux, right on the edge. They got a team of maybe 3 to 5. And they're wearing all the hats. Like they haven't quite figured out the operations completely. They haven't quite learned how to delegate. They haven't quite learned how to systemize. So although they created a business for independent wealth, they've actually created themselves a job that it's starting to wear themselves out.
Yeah. So and that's so powerful. Sorry to cut you off, Dave. That's so powerful, right? Is that realization that we get into this entrepreneurial way of life for the freedom, for the opportunity to be our own person. And then before we know it, we end up, just working the grave shift like we were in the corporate world, and probably more miserable because now it all rests on your shoulders. Yeah,
where's the next client coming from? What's the next invoice I can send? And I see that all the time. And I had a breakdown with a client this morning, and it basically comes down a marketing funnel into a sales funnel into a 3-tier product, whatever you sell, to an onboarding, to a delivering, and rinse and repeat, right? It's not rocket science, but an owner usually is either good at creating the product but doesn't know how to market, or is good at selling but doesn't know how to tier their products. Can deliver but doesn't know how to do customer. Like an owner or a business owner is good at 1 to 2 things in their business, and the others, they just need to know how it works so they can hire the right people to do it for them.
Yeah, for sure. Before we dive too deep into the business, you have a not-for-profit that you're involved in, or that you co-founded?
Yeah, so my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer years ago, and my buddy Ron Hamner and I started a nonprofit called Grab My Wheel. So I used to be a huge cyclist before children came along. I've done a couple of Ironman. I used to race mountain bikes and all that fun stuff. Yeah. But it was back in the day when Livestrong was big. We put on a women's event every year, a women's cycling event, and I think we've donated $500,000 over 17 years to different local charities and stuff for cancer research. So it's kept me out of trouble. My daughters have been raised through that, so they know about the giving back and the volunteering and that kind of stuff. So
the purpose behind asking that question is back to your earlier point about time. So you're involved in a not-for-profit. You've got your coaching practice. You've got your consulting practice. How do you manage your time on a day-to-day basis?
That is a great question. We now have a 16-year-old going on 30, and we have a 19-year-old, both girls. My oldest is a senior in high school. My youngest is a junior in high school. My oldest does cross country and used to race mountain bikes. My youngest is on a collegiate track to play fast pitch softball in college. Right. So we're usually on the weekends in a hotel doing softball showcase tournaments, talking to college coaches. So we've got 5-game series this weekend, and I run all the live stream videos. We do YouTube, and I do all the clips on that. But my daughters both work jobs. They go to school and they're running their sports. And we had a family huddle 6 weeks ago. Everybody has a Google Calendar. Everybody puts their time blocks in of when they're working, when they need the car. And what it comes down to is just getting creative. My wife and I'm very blessed with an amazing wife. She still works in the tech industry. We share responsibilities. Get the hate off your plate is a delegation process, knowing what I'm good at and what I suck at. And, my wife, she sat down and was like, I don't want to do this, this, and this. I suck at it. And and just learning how to delegate. I'm like, well, that's your responsibility. You know,
Right.
like neither of us are too good to walk the trash to the street. Like tomorrow's Friday. I was just in the kitchen and my wife's pulling out the trash cans. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, tomorrow's Friday. I'm like, oh yeah, let me help you with that. So
Yeah.
we're running the trash out. So to answer your question, it comes down to really everyone in the house has a Google Calendar, and we just time block when we want to do things. You know, like my daughter asked me this morning, hey, can you take me to the softball field tonight? I'm like, look at my calendar. I got a podcast recording. If you know, it's like if you want to go after 7:00, then yeah, we can definitely go to the field. But it's just getting creative with time and delegating and enrolling people to help and participate.
Yeah. Which is, a great logic to apply with the business as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to manage it. Sometimes it's not as it's sitting in the agenda in your calendar. You've got to be flexible, adaptable, but you have to find a way around it. Let's jump into the business side of things.
Yeah.
I know you do a lot of coaching, and then you have the people you've spoken about. Do you overlay, excuse me,
Yes,
do
sir.
you overlay the coaching with the consulting?
Yeah. So I had a couple of my buddies that are running multi-million-dollar coaching companies, and like, it's got to be cookie cutter. It's got to be this. So this is how you market it. And I'm like, look, I said the foundation of the business is the same, like we talked about earlier. You got to have a marketing plan to a product that people want. I love Alex Hormozy. He's like, look, if you open up a hot dog stand on your front porch, you're probably not going to be successful. Put a hot dog stand out front of a pub at 2 a.m. on a college campus, you're probably going to sell out, right? So really what I love to do is just help my clients see all the pillars of their business. And then I'm listening for the NLP, the neuro linguistics patterns. I'm listening to their language patterns where they're saying, I'm trying, or I can't, or this isn't working. I'm looking for their blocks.
Right.
So it's like, I love to lead with mindset, but nobody wants to admit that their mind's wrong, right? So if I can lead with, hey, what in your business is effed up right now?
Yeah.
And then I can usually tear it back to, well, that problem's in between your ears. I still don't tell them that. That's when we use the language patterns in the systems and then let them go through. But yeah, we do MER, mental emotion release. We'll do different hypnosis techniques. We'll do swish patterns. We'll do whatever we need to do to overcome it, right? And usually by the time we roll our sleeves up and we get dirty in the trenches and we really see the passion behind their business, a business owner is willing to try anything. Right.
Yeah, that's great. You talk about these 6 pillars. I wonder if we can just run through them, not in too much detail, but you've mentioned the game plan, which is where you start. You want to go through?
It's funny because I was working with an electrical engineer the other day, and he does these radome systems and antennas with satellites, and
right.
And I'm, at the beginning too, it's my old talk came in. I'm like, this guy's an electrical engineer. He built this amazing product. I'm like, how am I going to help him? And then I get in and he's like, oh my God, I'm $250,000 and I can't get this part. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm outside looking in. I could definitely help you. So how we help. Yeah. The 6 pillars is, sorry about that. Is we start with a game plan. Is most business owners can come in and tell me what they don't want, but they haven't sat down to write out what they do.
Right.
So really, I want to sit you down as what's your game plan? Why did you get into your business? Why are you passionate about it? What was your intention? Was it, free time for the family? Was it is it generational wealth? What are you trying to do with your business? Right.
Yep.
And then part 2, most clients don't want to deal with. Pull out your P&L. What's been your revenue? Where are you losing money? Where are you hemorrhaging? What are your expenses? What are your margins? I've got some clients that we're settling for 6 and 8% margins. And I'm like, no. It's like, that's a job. That's not a business. We're 18 to 28% margin. So we really look at the data analytics. And again, I'm not a CPA. A lot of times we're going to I'm going to look for why you're not looking at your money. Usually there's a mental block. There's a psychological upbringing. Yep. Money is evil, whatever it is. So we look at the money. We help you get a CPA. We make sure you're getting your monthly book closings, your soft closes, your quarterly tax statements, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is kind of my sweet spot, but being in engineering for 22 years, I'm Scrum Mastered and certified in Agile. So Agile Systems is creating standard operating procedures with a quality control checkpoints and a rinse and repeat. So this is where the hate off your plate comes into play. There's systems that are in your head that you haven't quite learned how to systemize them and delegate it to the team. And then that agile and team dynamics comes in together. We do an analysis of all your team members. We want to look at, have you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. Why if they're not an 8, why are they below an 8? Is it you? Is it training? Is it their attitude? Like, what is it? And believe it or not, it's funny when we do that with my business owners, usually about 1/3 of the company quits. Once the owner starts to recognize what they're good at, what they suck at, trying to rearrange the talent to the skill set that matches them. Yeah. And then a lot of these people are like, oh man, I've been skating. Now this guy's going to make me work. Oh, I got to go find a new job.
Yeah.
Which is great for the owner, because now we get the virus out of the environment. Now we know exactly who we need to hire. He goes and hires that person, and all of a sudden, yeah, it's weird how it works. I think over the last 5 years, I've had a third quit, and the rest of the people are like, oh, you're going to give me operating procedures? You're going to tell me how I succeed? Oh, and I can get bonus when I do, like, and all of a sudden these people are excited to kind of show up to work because now they know how to win, right? Mm-hmm. And then then that leads into communication. So teaching our leaders how to communicate to the team members, how to hold them accountable without being an a-hole. You don't have to yell and scream. These are success factors. This is how we succeed in the job, in these tasks, et cetera, et cetera. And then just helping them execute, and then letting them come back to the table. It's like, well, we changed this and this is the outcome we're seeing. And then we look for cause and effect. We kind of dissect it and break it down, change up the process, and it's just rinse and repeat until you kind of get this streamlined. And then what happens is over a year and a half, the owner starts to see this rinse and repeat. So when we bring in a new product, or we enhance a product, or we add different tiers, we add a service, they're like, oh, I've done this before. We just do this and this. Like, I've got a client right now. It's like, we're almost on the 3rd or 4th vertical in the company of 6 years from now. So he's got this one vertical. He already sees a vertical that we can lay a foundation. We just found 2 more verticals that he's like, man, I got to get a holdings company. I got to get these S corps so we can hold them. We can have these all. He's already bought the domain names. And so it's once you get the business owner in that mindset, they get excited and they see all these opportunities.
Yes.
And yeah, it's really fun to watch them.
So you're really like a business doctor. You're working on the individuals, and then you're also looking at the systems, processes, and getting everything aligned and streamlined and operating as it should, right?
Yeah, and I created it like just for me. Like sometimes, with my dyslexia, sometimes, like I said, it takes me a while to get to the front door, but once I get in, I can run. And I know sometimes these business owners are they're on the corner trying to get to the front door, and they just need someone to grab their hand and be like, come on, let's go. And there's been a lot of moments in my life where I needed someone to just grab my hand and say, come on, let's get inside. It's cold out here. And a lot of my friends that run other coaching companies, they've got these Netflix backdoor video training series, which are amazing. I mean, FAQs are great. But I don't have time to sit down and watch 30 hours of freaking how to do videos. I'd rather hop on a phone. Or Zoom call. Here's my problem. And a lot of times the problem's here, but that problem there is because your marketing sucks. Oh, that problem there is because, tell me your sales script. Oh, yeah, you're turning them off here. Oh, this is the problem. They think the problem's here, but it's actually 3 to 4 steps before the problem even shows up that you got to fix to get there.
Which is an important point. As you were running through those pillars, I was thinking there's probably a lot of people out there and maybe listening that would be hearing, man, this sounds like a lot of work. I don't have the time to do what I need to do today. If I bring in somebody like Dave, I'm just going to be swamped. I'm going to die in the process. How do you address that?
It does take a commitment. But here's one thing I've learned of the way our brain works. Our ego is designed to protect the body, which means our ego is constantly looking for the next fight. So that mindset right there is level 1. I can't make any changes because if I did, it could actually get worse. And although this sucks, I'll tolerate this suck. Right? People will not change until the pain outweighs the fear of change. Period. You can be listening to this and be like, yeah, I know I need to change. You're not in enough pain yet. When you're in enough pain, like that, the 2 potential clients I talked to this week, they hopped on the Zoom, like they're hemorrhaging. I'm in a lot of pain right now. Cash reserves suck. I'm back ordered till October. I got $250,000 in deals going out. Like they're paying. You can just see their pain, right? And I've got others that came to me and they're like, hey, we hit the $2.8 million mark. I got a team of 11. I can be an asshole. I'm starting to piss people off. I know it's me. Can you help me get my head right? Because if I piss off 5 more people at my shop, I'm on my own and I can't do this on my own. Help me so that I can help everybody else. Right. So that it's a time commitment. It is. Usually it's, it can be anywhere for 2 to 3 hours a week in the beginning for like the first month to 6 weeks, depending on how deep we need to dive. And then usually it's an hour check-in weekly. And a lot of that is to continue that growth and implementation. And a lot of times we'll bring other team members in. I'm like, you don't have to do it on your own. Like, who's your operations guy? Like one company now I work with, they've got a team of 28, and I talk on a bi-weekly basis to probably about 11 people in the organization. That they just have that. I helped him so much that he's like, you just need to be available to all my leaders. So, because he wants them to feel supported, but now he's gone from 2 to 6 million. He's like, there's so much on my plate. I want to give each person that individual attention. He goes, I can't be there like I can pay you to be there in that way to get them through their personal crap and the stuff that's going on in the shop.
Right. I've worked with a number of companies over my career, a little bit grayer than you, so probably a little bit longer career. But we've introduced, I think I was just thinking while you were talking there, I think I've probably introduced three companies, the whole quality assurance process. Yeah. And, that is essentially a whole series of standard operating procedures and getting everything in check. One of my takeaways with that is the initial setup of that can be a lot of fun, can be interesting to really refine the process. How do you keep people aligned to that SOP 12 months down the track?
That comes down to weekly check-ins. It's so important to have the one-on-ones. And it's weird. It's the same in a household. We have teenage daughters, and my wife and I'll be talking about problems we're having with the kids, right. and really, when they're doing so much, do they know how to succeed? So my wife's a customer success manager in tech industry. So she's always looking for, is the customer integrating the product? Is the product working as designed? Are they getting the bugs resolved in a timely manner? So, and then how does the client validate to us that our product is successful? So we have to identify those success factors. So if we're doing a standard operating procedure, we know first. It's funny, like the one company I was talking about, their sign manufacturer goes, Dave, we make a change today, we're really not going to see those effects for 3 to 6 months. And I'm like, no, it can happen faster. And like, sure enough, it's like, well, I'll look at the notes. I'm like, 6 months ago, we changed this. We're just now seeing the effects of it. Because like you just said, when we change the process, you're reprogramming everybody in that process, right? And not everybody's going to get it right out of the gate. You're going to constantly rinse and repeat. And when you get the process double checking, if they're not doing certain things, why do we need to do that? Like, it's just that. And this is the problem with business owners and, well, humans in general. We can't be wrong. This is the way I made it. Do it my way because I said so. I'm like, but that part's stupid. It doesn't make sense. So it's if we're not in conversation as we're evolving systems and making it more efficient, and we're not in conversation, you're the owner. You don't like, if you're making a widget in the shop, like you're not doing it. They are.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the old Toyota story, right? Where the Toyota engineers sat with the servicemen, and the servicemen helped the engineers redesign their engineering because the servicemen are the ones that had to service them in the field. Like, you don't put stuff under the engine because every time I need to service it, which is on a 6-month basis, I have to lift the engine out of the damn car. That's stupid. Right. So it's having that conversation with the leaders and the doers to make sure that the doers are giving the feedback to the leaders and we're getting those systems dialed in properly.
How do you deal with customers that really have that shiny object syndrome, where, and particularly in IT, right? Because you guys are faced with this every single day, with another new product on the market, another way of doing things. How do you deal with that and cope with it, more to the point?
Well, it kind of goes two ways. I've got a client that he's an amazing website developer, e-commerce, and then he's got a service system, and then he did SEO. So he was stuck on the shiny syndrome. He's like, my SEO process is the best, and I'm like, well, dude, let's map it up. Let's sell it. But it took like 8 months to get to market, and then now all of a sudden he looked up and he's like, why did I take so long? I'm like, I don't know. That's on you. I'm like, we've been having this conversation for 8 months, and I said, you're making like $15,000 a month off this new SEO process, but he has this shiny project and shiny tool syndrome, shiny ball syndrome, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and again, that goes back to NLP. It's like the neural linguistics. It's like they have a pattern or a habit of procrastination, right? The shiny ball syndrome is basically, this looks hard. I don't know how much effort it's going to take. This makes it look easy. I'm going to go diddle over here for the next 3 days and ignore what I know I should be doing. But there's a dopamine hit of ignoring what you're supposed to be doing, right? And that we'll leverage conversations, hypnosis, and what do you gain, what do you lose? And there's all those questions that we can get right into the unconscious and figure out why you're doing it. And if you want to get rid of it, we just do a switch pattern or we do a conversation about it.
Okay, great. Listening to the conversation, sounds like the majority of your clients are IT industry-based. Is that correct?
No, actually, most of them are in a blue-collar space. I've got a concrete manufacturer, high-tech. I've got a sign manufacturer, high-tech. I've got e-commerce. I've done Amazon store owners. We were talking about that. I just found out today I had 2 Amazon store owners. Both have sold for multi-million-dollar sales. Like 18 months after working with me, they ended up having a big payoff. They were able to sell a lot of it was helping them get their playbook together, the operations. Right. So now they've got a business, but it's a gamut. I think a lot of them, it's more of a design build type company, someone that has a design process and estimating a build and deliver. Some of them can flip it into a service-based contract because I was in professional services for years. But yeah, it can be all over the place, but most of them are in a blue collarish construction manufacturing of some sort. Okay.
So we're coming towards the end of our time, unfortunately. It's been a fascinating conversation. I've taken a lot out of this myself. What would you say to budding entrepreneurs that are in that, let's say that 1 million bracket at the moment, that are really struggling? They're committing more than 12 hours a day. What would you offer to them just as a parting gesture to help them move forward?
Well, I'm a visual guy. I love Miro boards. For me, I what I do with a lot of my clients is we map out the business. We just put, it starts here. This is my marketing. It goes to my sales. Do you have your marketing dialed in? Do you have your avatar? Do you know the problem your product solves? And do you have your avatar of your client down? Do you have your sales script down? If you're not marketing and selling, I don't care what your product is. Like, right. Of course, your marketing and sales has to be around a product that people need. Goes right back to Alex Hormozy. If you're selling hot dogs on your front porch, you're going to be out of business by the end of the week. Yep. Put those same hot dogs in the front of a pub at 2:00 in the morning when you got starving college kids, you're going to sell out probably every Friday and Saturday night. So just making sure that your product has a need, you're marketing to the right people, you have your avatar, and then you have a sales script. And then once you start developing, creating, and selling your product, start putting your playbook together. A lot of the stuff is my clients will come and like, hey, I had this pre-kickoff meeting and it was awesome. I'm like, great. Did you document it? What did you mean? I was like, I need you to go back while it's still fresh in your head and document everything you covered. And now that's the new pre-kickoff that needs to be documented. We need to put it in a Notion board or somewhere where it can be stored. So anybody, when you replace yourself, there's a process. Right. If you nail it, like, so there, it's just learning of if there's a process you hate, that's repeatable, that someday you want to hand it to someone, start documenting what it is and get it off your plate.
So that's a mindset thing as well, right? I mean, you're already thinking about the bigger picture. And I guess most people in this bracket are still thinking about them as a solo entrepreneur rather than
that
scaling the business.
Great ears. I love what you heard there. Yes, that's exactly when I've got owners, they're celebrating how awesome they are. And I'm like, but why were you on a plane doing that? It's like I've got a client that every now and then, like, he'll get on a plane for like a small job, and I'm like, you got two engineers in the field.
Hmm.
The average job now is, let's just say, $2 million. You just got on a plane for a $300,000 job. Why? You got two guys in the field that can like. Why? You got a wife and kids at home, and it's your business. Send them. That's why we hired them, right? But you get that ego, right? It's like, but look how awesome I am. Look what I just got to do. I'm like, yeah, but you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
You should be going and growing and building the business and shaking hands and kissing babies and getting your product and services out in front of more people.
Dave Goodall, great conversation.
Love it.
I look forward to actually tapping into some of your wisdom a little bit more going forward. But look, excellent. Thanks for being on the ET project. I'm sure our listeners will get a huge amount out of the insights you've shared. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Again, I'm a geek. I love these conversations. We can keep talking for another couple hours if you want.
Well, one thing I haven't asked you is, how do people connect with you?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is going to show up on the screen, but that's my website down below there next to my name. It's www.tapmental.io. And on the website, there is a schedule a call button. I think it's on the contact. There's a button on there somewhere that you can book a call with one of our team members, and we'll get on a 30-minute call and just see who you are and what you're all about, and see if I can't help you, we'll find someone that can. That's what we're all about here.
We'll pop that in the show notes anyway, but excellent. Hopefully some of the listeners reach out to you, and things grow from there. But Dave,
perfect.
Excellent. We'll keep in contact. Thank you.
Thank you much.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.